Assalamu alaikum, rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, alhamdulillah. So I'm going to go through this just one more time for one of the brothers in our group, because the people who follow along, two of the brothers in our group, they not that some of us aren't Salafi, most of us are Salafi, but two of us is from a particular group of Salafis. Okay, so when one of them asked me this morning, where I was answering him about drinking the pork broth, right? I was answering him. I wasn't still referring to my man's the good guy from the UK. So like even when I go through this, but now we're going to go through it in detail, and I'm going to try to be brief. So I'm going to be reading kind of fast. So what I did was I just, like I always do, because I've been noticing, like even with them and them being super Salafis, and they feel like this person is not super Salafis, right? But they Salafi, and they feel like a particular person is a Salafi scholar, which I got books by that brother. I done gave books away from that particular scholar, right? But they've never seen this, and like people saying that he wrote an article, in the article he wrote, I just went and found what went on. It wasn't no article. It was an actual Q&A. Wallahi, I have it now, right? Where he's answering the question. Somebody asked him a question. And one of the beauties of it, where he starts off talking about this thing with the pork, right? He says that this was the position of the Hanafiya. And Sheikh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah also took this position. Alright? He also took this position. Now, the matter what they're discussing isn't about making pork permissible in any way, shape, or form. They're referring to anything, and what they talking about, I'm familiar with some of the sciences of it, because they talk about things like, let's say some wood or something have like some poison ivy on it or something, right? Something poisonous on it. I'm kind of paraphrasing and using my own words, right? And if you take a match and then you set it on fire and then you burn that whole entire piece of wood, and now the wood has been changed into ashes. So now that it's no longer a tree anymore, or wood with poison ivy on it, now that it's ashes, it has been completely changed into something different. So now it's not impure. Like you could touch these ashes and you could step on these ashes and won't get poison ivy on you. So now it went from a state of being impure to pure. This is the concept of it. So they trying to use this science when it comes to referring to eating gelatin, right? Or any pork derivative. Now we're gonna look at the concept, and we're gonna look at the hadiths, and then we're gonna see certain things, and then we're gonna look at what the committee of the scholars say, right? And other things. Y'all pardon me, man. I gotta shake my juice up, man. A little raspberry, blackberry, lemonade with some watermelon, right? And it'd be funny. A couple people seen me drinking out of these jars, some tea, and they was thinking I was drinking out of like some a pickle jar, mayonnaise jars. They actually made 4 juices to keep them airtight. Y'all pardon me. Yeah, a person told me I'd be in videos drinking out of pickle jars. And yes, I do be saying Bismillah, right? So anyway, And I'm going to be brief. And again, this isn't to my man, the good guy, the good brother in the UK. And it's still my man's them from this morning, because they still want to say, okay, it ain't a broth, it's this, shake this, the article. He didn't write no article. And now that I went and pulled it up for myself, right, I see where, and when I read what Musa had, Musa kind of reworded this. But now I see where it come from, and I see the year when he put this out as a manifesto, like he came up with the ruling. And he came from, once they took the speech, the question and answering with Sheikh Bazmul actually happened on December 25th in 2013. They took it and put the article, not the article he wrote, they translated the conversation, and then some people put the article on the internet. Okay? And when they put the article on the internet, it was in 2016. This was around the same time when Musa Richardson released his manifesto. And I see some of the wording and what's in it. I see where he got what he was saying from it, but he was trying to use the concept. So let's look at one thing. Let's start with the hadith, right? We might look at a couple of them, but we're going to look at a particular hadith. And I want to point out how we have to be careful, because there's situations in the Quran, right, where a man had died, and from Bani Israel, and when the Prophet, not Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was speaking to them about go and slaughter a heifer, and I can bring this person back to life, basically, by the permission of Allah. Allah says do this, and then they started playing games. Well, what color should it be? Should it be male or female? Because they didn't want to slaughter any of their cows. You see what I'm saying? So they started playing games. Can it be wheat? Can it be old? Right? And there's, follow me. Then there's one in there where the Jews wasn't allowed to do certain things on the day of the Sabbath. So what they would do, because they couldn't fish on the day of Sabbath, what they would do would go out there and throw nets out there. And then the nets would catch all of the fish. And then they would come back the next day and get the fish and say, well, we wasn't fishing. This was playing games. So one, let's go to the hadith. We're going to use the one that's in Bukhari, right? So, narrated by Jabir bin Abdullah, I heard Allah's Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in the year of the conquest of Mecca saying, right? In the year of the conquest of Mecca saying, Allah and his messenger made illegal the trade. Okay? So when it says trade, look at this. Trade, this equals buying and selling. Right? So Allah and his messenger have made illegal the trade of alcohol, intoxicants, right? Dead animals, pigs, and idols. Alright? Now, I'm mentioning the stories that I told before because this is where people will come in and play the games of, okay, well, it was the pig brain, but it's actually not the pig. We selling the pig eyes. Well, we taking the pig bones and taking what come from the pig bones, not the actual pig. That's playing the same type of game as what color do the heifer want to be. If it comes from the pig, if it's derived from the pig, like I said in the original video, if you want to go with the gelatin and the different names that they have from these pork derivatives and say you can eat it, is it permissible to buy it? Can you buy those products with the pork stuff in it. Now, if you want to say, well, it's no longer pork due to this process where it has been transformed into something different. So it's no longer a pig anymore. But yes, it's derived from a pig, and we know that. But it's pure now, because they saying it's been taken from a process of impure to pure, based off of this process that they feel purified things. But a pig, we know that a pig is a filthy animal. By Allah Azza wa Jal. Like when you see some people, you can go on the internet, you have people who have pet pigs in their house. They have pigs as pets. If you take a pig, give it the best bath with the most expensive soaps, and clean this pig up every single day of the week like a baby or like a human, do that mean that pig is no longer a filthy animal? No, it doesn't. It's still a filthy animal. So if you cook a pig and do different things with it, and it's no longer this and that, do that mean that stuff is pure? I'm gonna put it this way, which just for the basis of this, I'm going to say, for me, I doubt it. Just for the simple fact this is a doubtful matter now. I doubt that make it pure based off of, let's see the process and see exactly what it is, and look at the rulings that people made and what they issued them off and what they used as Daleel. Right? But at the end of the day, according to this hadith, which we haven't finished, is it legal to buy it? Now you got to twist up certain things to say, oh, well, it's not a pig anymore. It came from a pig. But we're going to continue. The people asked, because now they know that it's illegal. Right? So the people asked, oh, Allah's messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what about the fat of the dead animals, not just the pig alone? What about the fat from the dead animals, for it was used for greasing the boats, and the hides, the saddles, the things that they used to use as saddles on horses, donkeys, camels, right? And they used to use it for lights. Okay? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, no, it's illegal. No matter how you render it down, no matter if you want to say it's no longer a pig anymore, but it's coming from the fat, it's coming from parts of the pig, it's still not legal. So under those contents, you can't buy it, you can't sell it, and you can't make it. All right? Now, this doesn't even involve actually eating it. This is using it for like household maintenances, to maintain your boats and your leathers and stuff, and to have lights in your home. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said no, it's illegal. So this substance, no matter how you get it, from melting it down with dry heat or putting it in water and boiling it until it just emerges into the water, and use it to make bread and different things with it. Because let's keep in mind, this isn't a new process. Rasulullah, as you look at the rest of the hadith, Allah's messenger further said, may Allah curse the Jews, for Allah made the fat of the pig and these other dead animals illegal for them also, yet they melted and rendered down the fat and sold it and profited off of it. Sold it and ate its price. They profited off of it. Now, when they were selling it, what was they selling it for? For people to cook with, for people to like cook, like fry stuff in, to put in breads. Because you have one thing about it, once you putting it in a broth, makes it flavorful. So they put it in bread and flour and different things to give a flavor to. But they're selling it to other people. And Allah, he said, may Allah curse them for that. Because this is a way for them feeling like, well, we're not eating it. We're not, you know what I'm saying? We don't consume it. We're just rendering it down, whatever processes we use to do it, based off of what we're going to sell it for. If we want to sell it for them to use as in a lamp, or to use on boats, because this is what the Muslims was doing it. The Muslims wasn't putting it in their food because it was swine. And this is in the year of the conquest of Mecca, so this is later on in the deen. This isn't early in the deen for people who understand and know what the conquest of Mecca is. This later in the deen, B. Right? So the Jews sold it where people used it in food products. This isn't nothing new. This is an affair that was going on before the prophethood of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this isn't a new issue. They just changed the names of the product. So even when you look at this hadith, one, it's extremely clear you can't buy it. Two, whether you want to say, they didn't sit down and say, well, Rasulullah, it's been changed to a new state, so it's not impure anymore. It's pure now. So we should still be able to use it because it's pure. They didn't say none of that. This isn't the understanding that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had. This isn't the understanding that the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam explained. And this isn't how the Salaf understood it. And I went with this first hadith, which is numerous narrations on this, but I chose Bukhari because we're going to start with the most authentic. Right? You can also find this in Muslim, Nasa'i, Dawood, Tirmidhi, Ibn Majah, Bulugh al-Maram. So even if you buying it and you know that there's a pork derivative in it, you're bogus. According to this hadith. Now, if you want to go through and say, oh, well, I don't feel like it's grease. I don't feel like it's from the fat. I feel like it went through a whole nother process and it's been changed to a whole nother thing, just like when you take a tree and set it on fire and it turns into ashes. I feel like that's what's been done with it. Okay. So now that I done came up with all that, so yes, now it is pure. So I can buy it. You got to come in and put all that up in there. But again, when the Jews was doing this same process before the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and during the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where the Khalifas and the Salaf, and even to this day the people had to deal with them, none of them said that you can still deal with that foolishness. Alright? Now, I don't want to, like I say, the other hadiths, they pretty much say the exact same thing, a little bit of change in the wording, so I ain't going to read a whole bunch of them, but you could go find it. Now, let's pull up exactly what the Sheikh said. Right? So they try, and I'm gonna play a little bit of the article. I'm gonna play a little bit of the recording because I got it too. Right? I'm only gonna play a little bit because I don't know if YouTube will try to copyright it, but I'm gonna play just enough so that y'all can hear it. This is the actual Q&A.
شيخنا هذا سؤال في باب الأطعمة. يقول السائل: نرجو من فضيلتكم توضيحا مختصرا لمسألة الاستحالة التي يذكرها الفقهاء، وهل لها تعلق باستخدامنا.
Now I'm gonna fast forward a little bit so that y'all can hear the actual sheikh. This is the questioner, the translator asking the question for him. This is the actual sheikh right here.
شيء باق على الأصل الذي كانت عليه من عظام الميتة أو الخنزير، وعليه فإن الجيلاتين.
And see, for y'all who understand the Arabic, when you hear him saying khanzir, that's pork, that's pig, right? But so, because like I said, I don't want to play it like that because YouTube might be copywritten because it's on the internet, and YouTube might try to put a strike on there. And what I basically do is, if they say that it's a strike, do I want to continue with it? They'll basically clip it. So, but when this video come out, if it be silent while I'm holding the phone up, they clipped it out because it was copywritten. So when you come through and look at what they made an article, he didn't write an article or no booklet or manifesto on this. Okay? Some other people went and did it and wrote what was said. And it's pretty close. It's pretty accurate. You know what I'm saying? So look, we're going to touch a couple of things. Right? This was the questioner. What exactly is istihala? The changing of the nature of a substance that the fuqaha speak about. And what is it that this matter has in terms of relation to consuming foods that have, for example, a porcine-derived gelatin in them? Okay? So the Sheikh, may Allah be pleased with him, he says, the scholars differ regarding those things that are najis, a filthy substance, all right, will become pure due to, as for the scholars of the Hanafiya, and this is the opinion that was chosen by Sheikh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah. So, just a pause right there. Not all scholars agree that this is what they saying purifies all filthy substances. Because what are you going to do with it? Just like with the tree, with the poison ivy on it. If you burn it and it turned into ashes, okay, cool. You could touch these ashes without getting poison ivy on you. But can you take these ashes and mix them in some food and eat it? Is it pure enough to go in your body? See, you have to look at what's finna be done with it. Okay? It's pure from the poison ivy, you getting the poison on you, but is it pure enough for you to start eating it? So the scholars don't even agree on this process. But like he said, the scholars of Hanafiya and Sheikh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah took this position, right? It is their opinion that changing of the nature of a substance, changing from one nature to another nature, is actually purifying such that something will change from being najis, which means go from filthy to being tahir, pure. This is their opinion. There's a difference of opinion on this process depending on what it is, right? Now look, and so as for the carcass of a dead animal, and I want y'all to put y'all thinking cap on, especially my two Salafi brothers from the Salafis, the real Salafis, I'll put it that way, because nobody else is Salafi but them. So the real Salafis, right? So look at this. As for the carcass of a dead animal, for example, turns through decomposition into salt. So let's say you see a stray cat in a neighborhood, and then this cat dies. Well, I'm going to put it in the context of how they put it in the context, because I'm familiar with what Sheikh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah said. From what I read, I didn't see him say pig, but I did see him use like a dead animal or whatever, and then some people translated and put. But like I said, even what I seen, I don't know if it was original because I didn't see it in a book. That was also something that somebody else added, but it had the Arabic. I didn't see pig. I seen dead animal. But then in the translation, they put pig or dog. I didn't see the word pig or dog in it from what I seen that they translated. But what he said was, if it fall into like a salt bin, okay? So if this pig or dog falls into a salt bin and then completely dissolves into salt, you can take that. Now it's no longer a pig, it's actually salt now. Now, one thing you have to do is test this theory. If you put a pig, a dead pig, in salt, will it eventually turn all the way into salt? Possibly over some time, but do that mean that salt is pure? Because now they saying it's not pure salt. I mean, now it's not a pig. The pig has been turned into salt. If you have a factory or something that processes salt, and if like a rat or something fell into it, if a pig or a dog fell into it, they got to throw all that salt away because it's contaminated. But due to the opinion of the Hanafis, and Sheikh al-Islam took that position and said you could go ahead and eat that salt. Me personally, I wouldn't eat it. You understand? Me personally, I wouldn't eat it. So anyway, then it says, and to salt, or if alcohol is converted into vinegar. When if you look at the hadiths and see what the Rasul say about the buying and selling and dealing with vinegars. Not kind of like what we have today, but I won't go too deep into that. Then this is considered a changing of nature. Okay, turning alcohol into vinegar is no longer alcohol. It now is vinegar. So the complete nature has been changed, is what their point is, right? Then this is considered a changing of nature. A substance changing to nature from one type to a next, it changes from what it was upon being, something filthy, such as the carcass, into something pure, right? Which is the salt. Although, do that mean the salt is pure? This is their opinion. Not all scholars agree with this. Okay? This is the Hanafis, and Sheikh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah viewed this opinion coming from the Hanafis, because the Hanafis was before Imam Hanifa, and the scholars of the Hanafi at that time was around before Sheikh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah. So he agreed with their opinion of this. Okay? So by them saying it's a difference, if you want to agree with it, cool. Me, it depends on the substance and what it's being used for. It's not that general. You see what I'm saying? So look. So it says, so consuming it. Hold on, I done lost my place. Okay, both are pure and both are permissible to consume through eating and drinking. So based upon this, we say, not Ibn Taymiyyah and them, this is, now he's coming to his opinion. So based upon this formula, this concept, this opinion from the Hanafi madhab and Sheikh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, not all the scholars, there's no ijma on this position. which I need to write that down because I'm going to get to it. Let me write it down before I forget, because this is something that we always got to keep in mind. That part is dry. Daleel, Quran, Sunnah, and Ijma. Ijma the Salaf, or the ulama. Well, I'm just going to say the scholars. Ijma the scholars, which the majority, which is the majority. The majority. Alright? So, let me hurry this up. Keep in mind. So, is there ijma, consensus on this issue? Do the majority of the scholars agree with what he's finna say? So look, so based upon this, we say foods that are originally derived from things that are impermissible, such as dead animals or a pig or the like, or things that are impermissible, once they change in nature from one substance to another, they become pure. I don't know if you can make, so okay, so it's no longer pig anymore. Now we're going into, but let me continue. They are no longer considered filthy and impure, and through this changing of nature also become permissible to consume despite previously being impermissible. Now, so then he says, as for the matter of gelatin, specifically, gelatin is a substance derived and extracted from the bones of animals, and sometimes the animal in question will be the pig. Now we can stop at that statement. Is gelatin, then we pause, is gelatin from the bones only? No. And that's why I always said, when they make this statement, they couldn't have seen how it was made. Because when you go and see, and that's what I wanted people to see, even with the videos I put up, I just chose a couple of the cleaner versions of the video just to show that it's still the pig fat. Some factories, depending on the place, because this was just, like I said, that was just a small video that's chopped up where they didn't show everything, but that was just at the Jello factory, not some of these other factories that make the pork, the gelatin, and different things that's going in cheese and other things like that. Like, wallahi, some of them, when you watch the whole video and they had a pig, and after they stripped the pig down and the head and all that stuff was on it, the testicles, and the pig is spread open, the guts and stuff out, but all this blood and the bones and all that, they run that through a grinder to chop the bones all the way up real good. So that once they boil it at such a high temperature, this all will dissolve and form up into the water. Okay? So you know, like I said, when I put the couple of videos, I was really trying to inspire people to do research and look into it more and more. And then look at the videos when you see when they take it and pour it on the powder, and it looks like straight grease, cooking oil. But, so, if gelatin isn't made only from the bones, now we have a problem with the Daleel. We have a problem with the Daleel. Because that's not what gelatin comes from. That's a part of it. They do use some of the bones, but when you look at the majority of it, they try to get the fattiest part, like the feet and the hooves, the nose, the lips, the ears, all around the head. That's why they keep the whole head on it. The eyes and everything still be in it. the tail, and really it also involves, because whatever scrap, what they can't really sell is ham, bacon, pork chops, tenderloins, and all that, and pork ribs and all that other stuff. So they really just use what's scrap, what's considered to be waste, and then they figuring out how to add it to hot dog buns. So your hot dog buns is more flavorful when you're eating your pork hot dogs. It got a pork flavor in it. Mixing it with different flours and putting it in a packaging and call it, you add some water to it, now you got some pork gravy. You know what I'm saying? Mix it with some flour, heat it up, stir it up, and put it in a jar. And then you got your pork gravy in a jar you can pour in your food. Selling it to baked bean companies where they could put the liquid and stuff in their baked beans and they pork and beans and stuff that's in the can. Okay? So they figuring out ways to continue to make money off of it. But we're going to say it is just made off of bones. Okay, cool. We're going to continue with it. That's not a flaw in the Daleel. But that's enough for me to say they couldn't have possibly seen how it was made. Especially in this food in America. And secondly, they can't make it in their country. Where would they go watch the process? They don't do it over there. Let's continue though, right? So, it is derived and extracted from the bones of animals, and sometimes the animal in question will be the pig. However, gelatin does not actually remain up on its original form, such as the known of the traces of the original form, which is a bone. So basically, it's not a bone anymore. So keep in mind, this process would mean the bone, for the impurity, would mean that the bone has to be turned into something entirely different. Like the tree, when you set it on fire and then it turns into ashes. The bone doesn't disappear. The bone doesn't turn into anything else. Okay? The bone isn't turning into something different. Now, when they grind it up and chop it up real fine, and wallahi, you could go watch videos of it. When it's chopped up and then it's pressure cooked so high that it kind of dissolves into the liquid. But then they get rid of the little bit of waste, but what doesn't come up in it and extract from it. It's not turning the bone into something entirely different, just like a pig turning into salt when it's dropped into a salt mill. It's no longer a pig anymore. Now it's salt. The bone is still a bone. But we know, and from the people who looked at it and seen what it's made from, it's straight pig fat. It's straight pig fat. They do throw the bones in there to pull a little bit more of the connective tissues and stuff that's attached to the bones that can turn into grease, or what they want to change it and call it collagen and all these different names, because you have to understand marketing. Like, why do you think when you go to the restaurant, you don't say, let me get a pig chop. Let me get some pig strips. See, a pork chop sounds more palatable. A pork steak sounds better than a pig steak. You see what I'm saying? Just like let me go to the restaurant and order a cow burger. No, let me get a steak. Let me get a beef this. We refer to it as beef instead of cow. This is marketing. It's more palatable. So instead of saying, this right here is some concentrated pig broth. Let's call it collagen. Let's call it gelatin. Let's call it porcine. Let's call it enzymes. Call it what it is. Pig. A pig derivative. But then vegetarians might not buy into it. Kosher people might not buy into it. Muslims might not buy into it. If they call, instead of calling it gelatin, if they put on there pig juice, a Muslim will be like, man, I ain't finna eat this. But let's call it gelatin or enzymes. But look at the concept, the theory. The bone isn't turned into an entirely different substance. The filth that's on it is extracted off of it into the liquid. Keep in mind, this process, it has to be turned into an entirely different substance. Not like let's say this is my arm, but the hair on my arm is impure, but they want the hair off of my arm. So they take my body, not just like, we're not gonna say clippers, but they remove the hair from my arm and then say, well, my arm was turned into something entirely different. But anyway, let's continue. Let me make this quicker, right? So based upon this, we say that gelatin, hold on, I was right there, right? Due to the changing of nature, it's considered pure and not filthy. Due to the change of nature, this is because we are of the opinion that istihala is a purifier. So again, when you look at how it's made, and that's why I like when I told the brother early this morning, take all of that pork stuff and put it in the pot in your stove at home. Exactly the parts that they use, boil it at home with a pressure cooker. And then once it cool off, drink that liquid. You're not going to drink it. You're not going to let that liquid cool off and mix it with some flour and make your bread with it, or make you some crackers with it, or pour it in something and add some sugar on it, right? Pour that liquid, add a bunch of sugar, emulsify it into like a paste or an icing, and then make you some cinnamon rolls and smear that paste over the top of it. Knowing you got straight pork impurities all over the top of it. But let's continue. And then what's left from the bones and all the meat and the stuff that didn't dissolve, you scrap that. Or like what they actually do is they grind that stuff and sell that as hot dogs, or they grind that stuff up at the factory, the food processing plant where I work. They got an area that process the food, the dog food for cow can. The cow can and the cat food. So they take that other stuff, those scraps like that, and then they grind that stuff up, that pig and all that stuff, and then they put it in cans as cat food and dog food. Yeah, put a flavoring on it to say chicken this dog food. Be straight pig meat, or it be a mixture. They grind it all together. But anyway, this is the game that they play. But anyway, so now we're finna get to the nitty gritty, right? So this is because we are the opinion that istihala is a purifier, according to the opinion of Sheikh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah. But it started with the Hanafis, right? So it also changes in ruling from being impermissible to being permissible. These are the foundations surrounding this particular topic, and when the scholars of Islam are asked regarding these types of food and this type of consumption of these type of substances, they would mention the like of this topic. Now we're going to look into that. The topic of istihala, the changing of nature, and they will talk about the types of detail. This question was answered December 25th, 2013. This article, where they translated the recording, this was added to the internet November 3rd, 2016. 3 years later, and this is where people taken talking about the article he wrote. But then there's a link to the actual recording. Okay? There's a link to the actual recording. So for like people saying he wrote an article and all this other stuff that I've been hearing people say as it's been discussed over the years, And then, like I said, when I went and looked up the stuff, this wasn't what they were saying. So I went and looked and found it myself. So now, again, I'm not going to say a flaw, but one thing we know for sure, two things we know for certain, it isn't only bones. It isn't only just the bones of a pig. Secondly, the bone, if it was the bone, is not changed into something entirely different. So how is it purified? For us who really seen the process and know what it is, we know that they use a lot of the fat from the pig, the fattiest part. That be the main portion. The bones is just a complement. And all factories, depending on where you go, all of them don't use the bones. Okay? All of them don't use the bones. But when you look at that and you know it and you see it for your process, let's take it back to that hadith. And then understand this is something that they was doing before Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam lived and became a prophet, during the time of his life while he was a prophet, and after it. He never said that process purified that pork. You can't even take it and put it on a saddle. You can't take it and use it to light your home as a lantern. But you can eat it. You can mix it with your food. You can't even buy it. You can't spend money on it. Because this is still what? They turned it into a pork derivative. This is a product derived from a pig. The Rasulullah didn't say none of that. But, like I said, if you ask the scholars, although it started off saying there's a difference of opinion, not on the pork thing, just on the whole concept that all this stuff was najis. If it go through a particular process, it's automatically pure again. All scholars don't agree with that. But let's go and look into what the scholars say. Some other scholars. The permanent committee of the scholars. Sheikh bin Baz and them, right? Right? So, I ain't going to go into a whole lot of it. But, the question, right? The question mentioned that some scientists said that these substances transformed into totally different substances. They cannot have their original attributes, and those they cannot be named according to the original substance they are made of. Speaking about the istihal process, right? This chemical or natural transformation makes the substance into another one. Is it permissible then to eat products containing these substances after it loses its original attribute? This process that the Sheikh talking about. The Muslim scholars know that transformation cancels prohibition. An example of this is given by the known scholar Imam Ibn Taymiyyah. If a pig or dog falls into a salt cellar and transforms under the effects of salt until it loses its original attribute, it is permissible to use the salt. This is a known rule to the early Muslim scholars. They use transformation as a way to make some impermissible things permissible. What is haram is to use products. Listen to this. What is haram is to use products that contain pork, fat, or meat. What is gelatin? Pork, fat, mixed into, they just boil it and make it a jelly. It ain't from the bones. But anyway, or meat. As fat does not normally change by heating or boiling. So there you go. When you watch them boil this fat, They're not changing the nature into something else. So if it has been boiled, or if it has been heated in a skillet where it's straight grease with no water on it, it's not pure. So even if you boil it and it doesn't turn into anything else, it just extract all that grease or whatever you want to name it, collagen, whatever it is, it just extract it into the water. Now, not only is it saying fat, the meat as well, minus the bones. So when somebody says it's only made from bones only, they're excluding the fat and the meat. But the reality of it is gelatin isn't made from the bones only. So if you're under the impression that it was the bones, cool, we could go with the ruling. It's not haram because it's the bones. It's not the actual meat and fat. But when you go and look and see how it's made, what is it? The meat, the fat, and the bones. And in some places, they actually grounding the bones up with some of the meat so fine to extract even more from the bones and the marrow and what they're referring to as collagen. Now, it's haram. So again, so if it is written on the cover of the product that it contains pork fat or animal fat, this makes that particular product impermissible to eat. But what if they change the exact same name of that to enzymes? Instead of saying pork fat or pig fat, they say enzymes. They say monoglycerides. Because they done took that pig fat and mixed it with some form of a powder that you could just buy if you own a factory of something where you process some. Now you take that powder and mix it in there, and then they call it monoglycerides. But at the end of the day, what is it? Pig fat. No ifs, ands, buts, or maybes. Let's continue. Right? So, do I have to search on the covers of all products I buy? And how can we know the haram substances if these numbers are not prohibited? So basically, there's a whole list of numbers and you have to click them. And instead of the names, they have it listed by numbers because they changed the names of the exact same product. It's a game. It's marketing because they wouldn't be able to sell it to vegans, vegetarians, Muslims, particular Jews. They're hiding what they've given the people. So look what else it says, right? And is it correct that the mentioned substances exist in products but in a small portion? It becomes halal if it's only a little bit. Because also in some of those, I didn't hear the sheikh say that when I listened to him or when I read what I read to y'all from the translation. But I've heard people who talk about, like I said, myself, I never heard no sheikh or anything said with my own ears. I just heard other people say that a sheikh said it. But some of the things where they said, even like in a video where he said and dude was repeating it, because this amount of gelatin and stuff that's going in there is such a little bit of an amount. But then he kind of cut it off because it was like he was tired of answering that question. But he mentioned that little bit about if it's just a little bit, then that also makes it halal. And what if we do not know the exact portion of it? So now let me go into what the scholars say. One thing that distinguishes the Muslims from others is that they pay attention to the Shari rulings, to the Sharia, right? That have to do with his life. That includes their money, their food, and their drinks. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam stated the importance of halal food to the Muslims in this world and the hereafter. He stated that eating haram food is a cause of du'as not being answered. And with regards to the hereafter, there is a stern warning that the one who nourish his body with haram things, right? Now it shows the hadith, right? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, everybody that is nourished with haram things, the fire is more befitting for it. They don't enter Jannah. You got pork and stuff in your body, you don't enter Jannah. Right? So, the Muslim should be aware of eating that which is not permissible for him to eat, and he should seek out halal food even if it is more expensive than other food, and even if obtaining it involves more effort. So cool. Now here we go. Second point. The pig is haram and najis. It's impure. It is haram to eat its meat or its fat, and it is not permissible to eat a little of it or part of it. If some part of its meat or fat is found in bread, food, or medicine, it is haram to consume it at all. The scholars of the Standing Committee for issuing fatwa said, if the Muslim is certain or think it's most likely that any pork, lard, or ground up pig bones has gotten into his food, medicine, toothpaste, and so on, then it's not permissible for him to eat or drink. This is, so like I said, even when you watch the process, the full process, it got ground up pig bones in it. Now I know some people who want to play the game. Oh, we not actually eating the bone. We're just eating all the stuff that's extracted from the bones, from the fat, from the meat, from the eyes, from the testicles, from the nose, from the mouth, from the face, the ears, the tails, and the feet. We're just eating that with a pretty name. Even if it's a little bit, it's haram. But look what it says. If it's in his toothpaste and so on, then it's not permissible for him to eat it or drink it or apply it to his skin. So like when it end up in your lotions, it end up in your face creams. I remember at one point in time they was actually putting it in makeup and lipsticks. Probably still is, right? Whatever he is uncertain about, he should abstain from it. Because the prophet said, leave that which makes you doubt for that which does not make you doubt. Even whatever you want to go through, it still never get past, with me, it still never get past a phase of, I doubt it. Secondly, understanding Quran, Sunnah, Ijma. What's the ijma? What's the main consensus? The main consensus is it's 100% haram. Now, like I say, if you want to play the game, like the way that those other people played the game, well, what color is the heifer? Oh, we actually not fishing. You know what I'm saying? We actually not fishing. We just put the nets out there. Oh, we're not actually eating the pork. We're just eating what's derived from it in our food. But like I said, when you see how it's made and then see what's to it, oh, you definitely eating some of it. Most definitely eating some of it. Drink the liquid. But look what else it says, right? So this is Sheikh bin Baz, Sheikh Ghadain, and Sheikh Abdullah ibn Qaud, right? Thirdly, does the Muslim have to ask and find out before eating any ingredients if he is uncertain about whether there is anything haram in it? The scholars of the Standing Committee said if he is uncertain about something, he should leave it. Elsewhere, they said he should ask for details because it is obligatory to be aware of eating haram things. This is what must be done if the country where those foods and drinks were manufactured is one where factories are not banned from using pork derivatives. Those people use a lot of pork byproducts such as lard, pig fat, right? Which they use in many kinds of food, drinks, medicines, paste, lotions, and so on. If the country of manufacturer is a Muslim country which bans the use of pork and its byproducts, bones, ligaments, any of it. Not saying if we boil it long enough it becomes pure. It's completely banned. So like I said before in the other videos, if the scholars feel like this stuff is pure enough to eat, why is banned in the Muslim countries? Why do the scholars ban it if a little bit of gelatin is okay? A whole lot of gelatin is okay. A whole lot of enzymes, a whole lot of the glycerides, which is the exact same thing, just changing the name of it. Why is it banned? The pork and the byproducts of it. The pig brain, the eyes, pig booger, pig intestine, chitlin, bones, teeth, tongue, all of it. Not just saying, oh, well, it comes from the bone only, so that means all this other stuff that's haram isn't involved in it, but it's just coming from the bones because the bones have been completely transformed into something else. What it's been transformed into? Let's look at the process and see if the bone is turned into something else. But if you throw in, okay, well, there's fat, there's pig fat, the lard, right? The lard gets mixed into the water. The lard, what you call pig fat, when it's boiled hot enough, that lard mixed into the water. How is it permissible? But look what he says, though. Look at this right here, right? So the Muslim countries ban pork and its byproducts. Then the Muslim do not have to research and inquire to ask about products that is permissible in it and of itself, and it is unlikely that there will be any of these haram things in it because the Muslim countries completely ban it. Based off of what? The ulama. Why the scholars ain't making it permissible over there? The only people who fallen into eating swine is us in America and Europe. The Muslims in Africa ain't eating pork products. These gelatins, the Muslims in Egypt, which is in Africa as well, they not eating that stuff. These Muslims over in Asia and the Asian minors, they not eating it. The only people who running around eating pork and pork products is the Muslims in America and in Europe. And our deen don't compare to them. We've been Muslim for a gang of years and we can't even form a Muslim city. They got whole Muslim countries because they ain't running around eating swine with a pretty name. They not sitting around going back and forth with these issues and then still some of us, like they say, man, some people, just like with me and a brother, we still going through this because why? You want to keep eating that swine, B. And that's on you. Alhamdulillah, like I said, I'm just going through it with the details because he asked me to. He asked me to give him more detail. And like I say, it's still up to you. You eat swine, you're going to be my brother. About 2015, 2016, I would have been like, ugh, brother, you najis. You know what I'm saying? You don't care about your deen enough that you don't even want to stay away from pork because it's in some candy you can't give up. Because it's in some chips you just can't give up them chips for Allah Azza wa Jal, and that pudding and that pork cheese. You just can't give it up for Allah. You're going to make some pork permissible based off of, if you go and listen to the actual Q&A or read it, it's based off of some deficiencies in the evidence when you look at how it's actually made. That's enough for me. Secondly, there's not ijma on it. The majority of the scholars don't go with it. When you look at the hadith, the Rasul, this was a process that was going on during the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They never said that process made that stuff pure. And they wasn't even putting it in the food like the people, the Jews, were selling it to. They were just using it on boats and stuff. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said it's illegal. So like I even said, even if you want to go with the process that is permissible to eat, according to the hadith, can you buy it? Can you pay for it? It's illegal. But anyway, look what they say though, right? Depending on the country where the food is produced and manufactured, the scholars will say whether one should inquire or not. Parts of inquire is asking scientists and experts about the chemical composition and organic materials. It also includes reading the list of ingredients on the food. Just like how I seen in that video the dude sent, dude was talking about you need to be doing all this reading and look at it. No, we're not going to be going through reading all of these things. Man, come on, B. When you look at what the scholars, and you in one of them countries that manufacture this stuff, it's obligatory. It's wajib that you be reading some ingredients. And that's why I thank Allah Azza wa Jal. That's something I picked up from the gang days as a kid. Because we couldn't eat pork, swine, put it in our hair, on our skin. I've been up on looking at the ingredients since I was like 15 years old. Yeah. Now, by me being a kid, occasionally, sometimes I would fall into eating pork because I still live with my parents. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes, but I wasn't pork crazy. Sometimes I would. The hardest thing for me to give up was pepperonis. I was through with the pizza, but then Subway came into existence, and they used to have a pizza sub. And the pepperonis on that joint used to be fire. Pepperonis and bacon was the last thing for me to give up. And you know what it took? Me going so long without eating pork. And I'm still a young kid, you know what I'm saying? I done had a night out. Chiefing real good. Drinking some of your finest alcohols that a kid could have, which was flavorful Mad Dog 2020 with the guys, some private stock beer, which my cousin them had put me up on in Chicago. When we would be in Chicago, we would be drinking that private stock. So I'd be down here drinking private stock and, not exposing my sins. And I had me a little female coming to meet me at the house. And I went down there and got me one of them old pizza subs because I was a little too tipsy. So I wanted to eat something with some bread and all that. So to kind of absorb the alcohol, all these little myths and stuff a person used to believe in. And got one of them pizza subs. And was sick as a dog. I couldn't even lay up with baby girl. And I was through. It took for me to get sick because I had went so long without eating it. You know what I'm saying? So, looking into the ingredients, man, alhamdulillah, man. Like, why not, though? But anyway, so then it just go into how the people, the Jews and other people, how they just slaves of money and they putting this stuff just so that they can earn more profit. Just like what Rasulullah said, the process of this, of what they was doing it, so that they could profit off of it. And look what it done spread to. And due to that hadith, there was times when I used to get beef gravy and it would have beef fat in it. I stopped getting that type of stuff based off of this hadith. Because it don't limit it to just the fat of a pig. You know what I'm saying? Where it's mixed in with the food. You know what I'm saying? And I seen where I done seen where a couple of rulings, where it's like, because beef fat is still permissible to eat. Like if you eating a steak and there's some fat on it, you can eat that. You know what I'm saying? Chicken, you eat chicken. Chicken has fat on it. When you frying it, when you baking it, it help make it crispy. So some of the rulings that was issued, and I took a look at it from that way and understood, looking at the hadith, certain little things and digging a little deeper into the hadith. But when it comes to swine, no, because swine isn't a halal animal. You know what I'm saying? So like I said, is there any process that can actually purify a pig? Just like we know that it's unclean, we know that it's unhealthy, right? If a person wash that pig and scrub it, and like a human being, and brush his teeth and his mouth, it's still a filthy animal. It's still a filthy animal. Whether you cleaned it up or not, that spiritual aspect, it's a spiritually nasty, filthy animal. So if a pig die in my front yard and eventually turn into the mud, that mud is still not pure to me. You know what I'm saying? That's pig mud to me. You understand? But anyway, man, if it comes from a pig, man, alhamdulillah. So it not like I say, I'm doing this for my man because he asked for a little bit more. I showed you what he said. I'm not, and I really was trying to avoid doing this because I know I'm gonna lose some subscribers. Because now, who do I think I am to refute one of the Salafi scholars and all that weird stuff? Which I'm not refuting them, and I'm not saying his position is wrong. I'm gonna go the academic route and say there's a difference of opinion on the purifying process. Some scholars don't agree that these process, even if it's changed to another nature, that it automatically pures everything. There's a difference of opinion on that. So academically, I don't have to agree with that part. Now, when it went to talk about what gelatin was made from, I know because I've seen the process. I've seen the process as a little kid and watched my grandmother make it with my own eyes by boiling the pig parts, the nails, the nose, the feet, the hooves, tails, the ears, and other little. They used to call it a fat back, which was like a huge piece of fat off the back of the pig. And then she would put that stuff in there in a pot, in a big pot, and then she would kind of stir it to let it create its own grease. And then once it started to create its own grease or collagen or whatever you want to call the derivative, and then after it would render down a little bit, then she would add the boil it. And you used to have one of these pots where you lock the lid, basically a pressure cooker, and let that mug just pressure cook. Then she would take that mug off, take that top off after it pressure cooked for a little while to where all that meat and stuff was breaking down and some of the fat liquefying certain parts of it. And then she would take a fork. Some of the fat that wasn't breaking down, she would take a fork and mash it. And then it would be mashing and breaking down even more. Then she would throw a gang of seasoning in it to what was going to be in the sauce. Throw the seeds in that joint up. Then she'll put that top back on there and pressure cook it to where all that seasoning was going into it. Then she would take it. Then she would take that liquid and pour it in this like a Jello tray, the same tray that she made Jello and banana pudding. What they call it? I think they didn't call it banana puddings. I think that's what it was. I didn't like it, but they used to put vanilla wafers all on the top of it. A lot of older black people and people who grew up with like their grandparents, a lot of people eat that stuff, especially in the Midwest. In that same pan, and then she would pour that liquid. She would pour all that water in it and let some of the pieces of the fat and stuff be all in it because it's broken down in little pieces, and then she would put the other little stuff in it to make it the sauce, and then she would cover it with plastic and put it in the refrigerator. Then the next day when she come out, it would be solid like Jello, and then they would cut it in slices and put it on crackers and on bread and all that type of stuff, and they would have that clear coating around it, and then she would make the hot sauce, and the hot sauce had a whole lot of meat in it. And I remember I just seen my uncle had some on a plate, right? And like I say, I ain't gonna lie, I was a bad little kid, man. I had been tiptoeing in my uncle and them beards, right? So I'm a little tipsy, but I'm about 15. And I just synced it on the plate. And I didn't know it was pork or none of that. It looked like something else, and and it was some crackers. He left the room. And I took some of that stuff, man, and took a bite out of it, and it was slimy, but it was hot. The seasoning on it was good. And I was like, man, what is that? He was like, man, that's hot sauce, man. Mama made it. But I was used to seeing her make the mild sauce. And I went and looked in the refrigerator and synced that stuff, man. And I ain't gonna lie to you, I ate a little bit of it until I couldn't stomach it. You know what I'm saying? Where I wasn't supposed to be eating pork, but I'm new to the game now, though. This me new into it. You know what I'm saying? I probably have been in it about 3-4 months, but I know where they come from, man. I know what it do. And when people who don't, anyway, man, I'm quit talking about it. So I'm going from it. I'm about to lose some subscribers. I'm probably finna get some some hate emails. You know what I'm saying? Who do you to be refuting scholars? Name your man and all that old weird stuff they be sending me. But anyway, the brother from the UK. I seen the message where you asked about contacting me, the Telegram thing. I gotta go. When I go into the Telegram and pull up the handle, because it's Masjid, I almost said Masjid Salafia. It's Masjid Salahin, but you gotta put like a T dot Masjid. Anyway, I'm gonna go copy and paste it, and then I'm gonna put it in the comment. And that way you could click it and it'll take you straight to where you could contact me on Telegram. Inshallah, bismi Allah ta'ala. And Allah, please don't let it slip my mind and allow me to forget to get a brother my information. So I'm gonna try to get that to you, no problem, you know what I mean? But so man, we done. You take it from what you want to take from it. I'm not refuting no scholar, but I'm looking at the evidence for myself from definitely from the hadith, the Quran ayats. This was a process that's been around, and the Rasul said they're gonna be cursed from it. You can't buy it, you can't make it, you can't involve yourself in the process. You can't use it and put it on your skin, put it on your leather belts. Whatever we have at this time, you can't use it, you can't cook with it, you can't do nothing with it. And eating it and putting it in your body is just diabolical, especially when you don't have to. You don't have to eat food with gelatin in it or enzymes. They make this stuff without it. But anyway, man, assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.